All right, great. Well, welcome to the first full-length episode of We Talk Beer, Windsor, Essex Beer Talk podcast here on WePodcast. First guest we have on this show, we have Brian Datoc from Craftheads, as well as Steve Fabischek. Both are co-owners of Craftheads Brewery here in Windsor, Essex. And they luckily and nicely brought some beers for us to sample. We'll be tasting those throughout the episode and telling you guys what you can find at their fine location.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're gonna actually crack one open right now. We're gonna get right to the good stuff here and just crack open some beer. And what do we have here today? We have an impeachment Imperial stout. Brett from Windsor, I think I might know that person, and Imperial Pumpin' Pumpkin.
Yeah, this is just a pale ale brewed with Brett. This is obviously an Imperial stout, and then this is a spiced fall beer. Pumpkin.
Got to get on the pumpkin bandwagon. Yeah. It's one of those. Some people are, absolutely not. We're not doing anything pumpkin, and then everybody comes in. You guys have a pumpkin beer?
Pumpkin spice latte right there.
That's it, in a glass with a little.
Just a little more boozy than usual. But.
A little 8%. You know, that's good. It'll keep us warm.
So what do you want to start with? Crack this one.
Let's start with the pumpkin. So, we're out of season. We're getting into the Christmas season now. We might as well finally put the Halloween season to rest. And while you're pouring that, we're going to start with just some simple stuff here. Let's get some of the cliche questions out of the way here. And if you guys want to, tell us a little bit about Craftheads, fire away here.
So yeah, if you guys haven't heard, we're a Craftheads Brewing Company. Myself, Brian Datoc, and my partner here, Steve Fabischek. We co-own Craftheads Brewery, downtown Windsor on 89 University Avenue West. We'll be celebrating our 3-year anniversary this coming February. We're really excited. It's a lot more than we ever thought it would be, and in a good way. And we're so happy to have everyone's support and have people like you, Mike, kind of helping grow the craft beer industry in here in Windsor.
I was on my way over here and I was wondering too. I was like, are they at 3? Should I say it, or just hopefully they'll bring it up? I was like, is it 3+? Like 3.5 years? We're coming on 4. It's only been 3.
It's coming up on 3.
Just coming up on 3.
We did take quite a bit long on our renovations. Not as long as Sandwich, but they did a much better job of renovating than we did. But I guess it took us about seven months.
Yeah, I think we took possession of the building in June or July, August.
August. Yeah, it was August.
Yeah, and then we opened in February. So February 2018 will be our full 3 years.
Yeah, so we'll have our 3-year anniversary. I think it's the weekend of February 23rd and 24th. So usually the last week in February we do something big.
Did you find that standard issue applied? The whole the plan says 3 months. We might as well make it 6 because they would say take whatever you do, double it, triple it, because it's never going to work out in the time frame that
I think
you've planned it out.
Yeah,
or
I don't
you
really
guys
know if we had a time frame. We didn't really even know what we were getting into at the time.
Like zoning, what's that? That's licenses. Like the amount of licenses and inspections, I felt like that was really burdensome. But I guess it's what's needed to make sure that everything's legal.
Yeah.
But yeah, just make sure that everything's safe. And the renovations took quite a bit, and it's one of those things where you still keep on renovating. Like there's still things that can kind of be tidied up, or things that you want to add, or things that you want to do to the brewery to make it more inviting. So it's always a constant struggle.
I remember coming in when you guys were doing construction at some point. I think it was Ryan had set that up. Tried to get some of the homebrewers to come in.
Yeah.
At one point, there was a group of us that come in, and I found it at that point we're talking. Hey, so what are you guys doing? What are you planning? And I remember you saying like you're gonna have 30 beers on tap, and I'll own this one right now. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. 30 beers on tap. That's a hell of a lot. You're gonna be brewing a long time here, and a lot of hours, but. You got 30 taps up at the bar, so they're all there. Like,
it took us a while. I remember it took us a couple months to actually get to 30. I think we opened with 8 to 10, and then we went to 16, and it just kept growing and growing.
I think 5 months, because I remember we had our 30 tap event, and that was like 5 months after we opened. We got killed the first couple of weeks that we didn't know how much volume that we go through, and yeah, it was just, I think we started off with 11 beers, and then by the second week we had 4.
Yeah,
and that was that first month was just nonstop brewing. I know Steve has his day job at Chrysler, and he was in pretty much after work and kegging and transferring, doing all the transferring while I was brewing all day. So is that first year went by in a blur.
Yeah, it was
Right,
really busy. And back then, I remember our brewing capacity was actually 10 gallons at a time. Like,
Yeah,
and then we doubled it, I think, after a year or something. But we were literally brewing a 10-gallon batch each time on that Brew Magic. And
that's 37.8 liters for those listening
for
in Canada.
for the Canadians,
For the Canadians,
that,
yes.
that choose to
yeah,
listen.
that was less than one full keg
Yeah.
when we first opened. That's how small of a brewing
It's a-
operation we had.
And that's why I was like, wow, 30, that is ambitious. And
I
God
remember-
bless you guys if you can
Oh,
get to
I think
that.
Bryan
because-
had like a 9-batch brew day one time, like
Yeah.
just 12 hours, 9 batches in a day.
Yeah, it was 8 or 19 hours because I remember
Yeah.
I had what did I have? I had it was David Attenborough. It was I think not Lonely Planet. Blue Planet. No, what was that David Attenborough like documentary? I just had that playing while brewing.
Planet Earth?
Yeah, Planet Earth. I
Yeah.
just had that in the background, and I was just brewing, and that was an insane day. Like
Should put on the Lord of the Rings director's cut or something like that.
Oh.
Had that
I just-
going and just
I just needed something that I didn't really have to pay attention to. I can just see pretty things on the screen. But we took the TV down, so that
Yeah.
kind of helped with productivity.
got a little carried away. Oh, hey, didn't boil over. Oops, sorry about that.
Yeah, I was. I think I was pretty much brewing, and I had a lawn chair that I was taking 30-minute naps in between sparging and cooling down the wort. So I had a timer. So like during the middle of the night, I'd set the timer for about half an hour, so I can get half an hour naps.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So obviously now we're coming up on 3 years. You guys have gotten you had your kettles have all increased, and
Yep.
there's numerous we have 6 fermenters now.
We have 8 or 6 3-barrel and 2 2-barrel fermenters. In about 3 weeks, we'll be getting a 3-barrel system, which kind of help with kind of reducing the amount of brewing time that we do. Because right now we're doing 4 batches a day, 6 days a week. So it would be easier on the guys. But we still want to have that selection, so we're going to be able to do a couple different things with those beers. It'll give us a lot more time to age things as well. Just kind of our one-off batches that we really like doing.
Very cool. So to be able to ease up on the guys a little bit, and having the 30 batches or 30 taps, and whatnot. You guys are known as being some of the more creative people in the local industry as far as the beer goes, and some of the interesting things you do. Is that something you guys like truly embrace? Is that something you were trying to work on being originally anyway, or you just kind of said, well, what the hell, we can do small batches, so fuck it, let's make this.
I think that's how we got into it. Like
Yeah.
just all the different crazy beers that we were trying. Like we'd go to different breweries all over in Michigan, especially, and that's how we kind of got into it. We said, we can make some really crazy beers and some like match up some really cool flavors. So that's kind of how we started it. We wanted to do really crazy things that you can't really find. Can't find in the LCBO, at least.
I remember we went to Walkerville, and I was talking to it was Chris Ryan. I'm like, oh, it'd be great if you did like 100 IBU black IPA, and I never understood the business side of it because like it's what we wanted, and there's maybe a handful of us, but then realizing the business side of it, you have to sell 60 kegs of that 100 IBU black IPA, and I don't think Windsor was ready for that. So we're actually really grateful for Walkerville of what they did to bring craft beer to Windsor, making a great product, getting people to see the importance of supporting local, and that kind of opened up the doors for a lot of the craft breweries in Windsor's Essex County. So we were able to utilize our small system to do all those crazy beers, because instead of having 60 kegs of that beer, we have 1 keg of a one-off beer that we can always tweak. We can always change on the fly. And that's kind of what we really loved and enjoyed about it. And that's kind of the reason why a lot of our brewers enjoy brewing on that system, is being able to do different recipes, change different things, tweak it on the fly. We can do one recipe, try it out, and see what they want to tweak on it, and brew that batch a couple weeks or that day, and you can do a 1-to-1 comparison of the two. So doing that, it opens up the possibilities of what we can do, what we can bring to the table, what ingredients we can use. And we just kind of like being on the front edge of that culture and that type of brewing.
That's the cool part. You hear about gateway beers, right? So like blonde ales or cream ales. Everyone talks about those, trying to get the big macro drinkers to come down. But I guess to a certain extent, because of the creativity that you guys put forward, you could almost say that you're creating a different type of gateway in, because those people that because craft's been around. I mean, we're talking like a solid 15 years now that really craft has really been strong. So for some people just getting into drinking, this is they know craft beer.
Yeah.
So you guys can turn around and say, hey, let's do something different that's going to perhaps pique their interest right away, as opposed to having to go, well, I'm used to drinking, this macro yellow fizzy liquid. What do you got that's close to that? Yeah. They're coming in and going, okay, what's the craziest, coolest beer you guys got?
Yeah, exactly.
Of which two of them stand out to me. We're going to tap on this. We got to get the story behind this one. But one of the other one was Steve wanted to make that stout that would just stain the glass. I wanted this black, thick stout that even after you were done, you're like, did I finish this, or is there still some in my glass? It's stained. That one stands out to me. And then the last one, the other one that was a big, wasn't necessarily hitting as far as flavor, but the whole concept. You probably know what I'm asking to say about the Shawarma Beer.
Oh, yeah.
we got to hear the story of the Shawarma Beer. You knew that one was coming up.
All right, we'll start with the black. What did we call that one?
Stout Destruct.
Stout Destruct.
Your buddy's name.
So before we started brewing, I guess right when we started brewing, I had a lot of questions. I'm very creative and like to think outside of the box. And my first question is, what happens if you brew with just all dark grains? So obviously, after researching it, you realize that there's not enough starches, or you won't have a beer essentially. It won't convert anything to alcohol if you only use dark grains. So I said, okay, well, we got to dial it back a little bit. So what if I do a 50-50 combination? So that's basically what I tried to do, is just use 50% base malt and then use 50% of dark malt, so chocolate malt, a little bit of black patent, roasted barley, and just see what happens. I guess that's our whole mantra of the brewery, is just try things.
Just push the boundary.
Push the envelope and see what happens. So I don't think the beer tasted that great. I think it was a little too chalky, a little too roasty. But
you should try it again with their new dark beer method. Yeah.
But yeah, that was it. I just wanted to push the boundaries and see what happens if you really do use too much dark grain or something, or what does it taste like?
And then you only got a couple of kegs to worry about, not 60.
Oh, the Shawarma Beer, how did that come about? So I think
I don't even remember. I remember making it, but I don't remember what the.
I think it was more of like a gag thing. We're like, what would shawarma?
Yeah, I think it was a joke. I think it was just like,
what would the shawarma taste like in a beer? So I think we had we'll do our brew schedule, and then there was one that we just had just kind of make whatever and see what happens. And we're like, you know what, this is a good time to do something really, really dumb. So we have a shawarma place next door, Shawarma Queen. So we had
it was two full shawarmas, a beef and a chicken. I didn't want to discriminate, so we got two full shawarmas.
Load it all up, garlic sauce, onions, everything that works.
Yeah, and then we put it in the food processor
with some wort. As the wort was boiling, we took like a couple cups of the wort and put it in there and food processed the shit out of it, so it became like it looked like throw up, actually. I tasted it before I threw it into the wort, and it had the texture, and it was pretty damn gross.
Yeah, you can see the beets going in. Like it
didn't fully puree. That's the thing. There was a lot of chunks. So
you didn't even hesitate just to be like, you taste it, like maybe not. You're just like, no, it's all in or nothing at that point. Just had to do it.
Let's
dump it in the boil.
See what happens, and then so we kegged it, we brewed it, kegged it.
I actually didn't think it tasted that bad.
It smelled terrible.
It smelled really terrible. But it was almost savory. If you knew what you were about to taste, like if you didn't and it was a big shock, you'd like want to spit it out. But if you told someone like it's gonna kind of be like a clamato or like a savory drink, like almost salty.
It smelled like hockey bag.
It tasted like I want to say like almost like a
garlicky and
liverwurst. I don't know. I got liverwurst.
But it's fun. Like on our point of sale software, you can see like when beers are purchased. And you've seen the Shawarma Beer purchased at around like between like 12 or like midnight and like 1:30.
People are really
people are like I'm not saying they're drunk, because if they were drunk we would cut them off.
They were happy.
They were on the verge of not being overindulged, but they were feeling pretty happy. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people purchased that drink for their friends to drink to see what the reaction is, or they're like, oh, I'm gonna get shawarma after this. Why not drink your shawarma? So. Two birds, one stone.
There were some people that actually really loved it.
Was there?
Yeah. Didn't somebody want to buy a keg of it off of this?
Yeah. That's the thing. Like we know that there's not one single beer for everyone. So, but we know that there's one beer for everyone.
Yeah.
So whether or not it's our beer or your beer or whatever, there's always something, a flavor or something that that's barrel aged, or what I'm finding is a lot of wine drinkers like sours. A lot of female drinkers like sours. They're like, oh, I don't want beer, I don't want this. I'm like, just try this. So it's either fruit beer or sour.
But you find it because a lot of sour beers, unless you're going straight sour though. If you're getting into like the Flanders Reds or something, you get a little bit of acetic acid anyway, so it's very much like wine. So that tends to, and you get that oakiness in there as well. But I also find with a lot of sours too, but they are doing a lot of fruit based ones too. Yeah. So it makes that nice little transition for them to come on over. But it's getting the
coming over to the dark side,
to the sour side. But it's getting those. But even that, it's getting some, then the big macho people. I only drink quiet and try it. Drink the fruit beer. It's good for you. It's not gonna hurt you.
Oh, some of the fruit beers, like we went to when we did our trip up to Cass Days. Some of the fruit beers were our favorite ones.
They're incredible. Incredible. Aged on cherries for how long? We threw some raspberries, all those great. Oh, it's fantastic when you can get the right combination of the beer with that right fruit. Yeah. It just makes it taste phenomenal.
Because there's so many, like being in Windsor and having it such a multicultural like city. There's so many different like flavors and lots of different like things that we can kind of go off of. So like there's that multi-food store just on Crawford and Wyandotte, and they get fruit from like very tropical fruit like durian, like lychee. So those are the things I want to start doing.
I didn't know they had lychee because I love lychee.
Yeah, lychee is lychee.
Even guava. I like guava too.
Just any of those tropical fruits.
Here's an idea. Maybe we can try this one out. Instead of hopping up and using the hops for the IPA, how about a little Chinese bitter melon? Bitter melon IPA.
My dad grows in the backyard.
There you go.
That bitter melon, yeah.
Oh, those things are like 4 feet
I've never actually tried it, but my best mate says like he has that gene where he don't really pick up bitterness.
Oh my god!
I never tried one. I should have.
As a child, like we would have meals with that, and I would pick them out, and I get yelled at for not eating. But it was it's like. It's an acquired taste.
Didn't your dad say like if you let it grow too long, it becomes too bitter? Like you gotta.
Oh, see, that one is like that one's a squash, the really long one. Yeah. But the bitter melon looks like it has like zits on, like a zucchini with like zits on it. Oh. And it's really bitter.
That might work. Bitter with that instead of the hops.
Make a Groot, and use that to bitter. So
it could work.
Hey, done.
Next one, we just created a recipe here on the We Talk Beer podcast. Fantastic here. Actually enjoying this Imperial Pumpkin beer here. It's very, very tasty.
This is one of the recipes that we did when we homebrewed.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of spice. Like it was kind of a
bulk bar.
Yeah. It's probably like
is it more for the quantity of beer you produce? Because what I really like about this one right now, as opposed to most pumpkin beers or spice beers when they come out, to me anyway, there's a very small window of where the spicing is done right. It's either a little too less, and you're like, it's kind of not really getting some, or it's way overboard, and you're like, God damn. Like,
well, I think
tripped on that.
For us, we want to make sure that if it says pumpkin,
you taste the pumpkin.
You taste pumpkin. Like
we're not about
flavors.
Anything subtle. If I don't know if you noticed, our beers are
absolutely
not.
Yeah, the whole subtle thing, we'll leave that to other places. But like if there's a flavor, we want to make sure that flavor is imparted in that beer. We want to make sure because there's a lot of places that we went to. Like one of the things that come to mind was Oddside Ales in Grainhaven, and they do a lot of one-off stuff, a lot of different flavored beers. And when they say there's I'm trying to remember, just like a Moroccan like stout or something.
The mocha.
Mocha brown or
I forget what it's mocha something porter.
Yeah, and it was phenomenal. And you taste those flavors.
You taste everything that it says is in it.
It's just some disappointment when you try a beer and you're like, oh, that's not exactly what I thought it would be. But it's one of those things where I think with the craft beer industry, you want to try different things. Like us having different flights, 30 taps, it's always something you can always go into the tap room and try something new. And just having that experience, whether you're something that comes in every week or the first time you're coming in, you're coming in the next time after a year, there's always going to be something new. And that's kind of what we like having on the board. We like going to different breweries and seeing what other breweries do, and we just want to be able to build upon that and kind of inspire other people to do to kind of change their mentality about what craft beer is.
Yeah, basically think outside the box. Like it can be anything you want. Think of any flavors you want. You can put it in a beer.
Yeah, and it goes with more than just beer. Like just thinking out of the box, just thinking out of the box in general. It's like we want to create that environment or create that culture that don't necessarily stick to the norm because it's not what it's made out to be. Being able to do things outside of the box and kind of think of different ways of getting from point A to point B is kind of what we enjoy doing. Whether it's trying different methods or doing different ingredients, there's always something new or always something to learn. But if you don't try, then you're losing out on something. Like being able to try something, and I'd rather try and fail than not try at all.
Especially with the small brewing system, it's not a big loss if we fail.
Yeah.
Like we've had some fails and you end up throwing the beer out, but it's no big deal with the small system. So
Yeah, and we always use that as a learning experience. Like what happened? Like what did we do wrong? Was it too much of this or too much of that? Any of those opportunities give us something to learn with. Learning with different yeast and pitch counts and all that. It's always something that we would learn, that we like learning from. That R&D, pretty much that brewery is an R&D facility for us, and being able to learn different things off of that is kind of what keeps us really, really interested.
You guys started out as homebrewers, but you're both engineers as well, right?
yeah,
So it's one of those things I had read early on in with getting into the homebrewing side of things. It's engineers tend to gravitate towards. There's a few other groups that do too, but engineers definitely tend to gravitate to the homebrewing side. One's getting to build your equipment, make this, trying that experimental aspect of things. So
I remember the one beer we made. It was your idea. He wanted to make like a high alcohol cerveza.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
no,
no.
it's just
So we had I think one of those Cooper cans. Like
Yeah.
so the whole thing is like I went traveling. I bet this English guy that I was traveling with. I was traveling with two English guys around Australia, and we played golf. And he goes, whatever strokes you beat me by, or vice versa, that's how many beers we owe each other. So I killed him. He said that he could kill me. I killed him by like 36 strokes. So he owed me 36 pints of beer, and pints of beer in Australia is like $9 a pint.
not
And
cheap.
so he's just like, I have no way to get you 36 pints, but I can buy you a kit that will make you 36 pints of beer. So that kit, I think we brewed it maybe 2 years after because it was pretty old.
And
And
what did we do to try to bump the alcohol up? Add dextrose.
oh, we added more dextrose
Oh,
to it
was-
to try to.
dude, horrible idea.
It was a little rough around.
We
the
threw it
edges.
out. It tasted like tequila. Like it was so bad we didn't even drink it.
But we tried.
Yeah, we tried.
I actually have a can when I got my first homebrew unit. I just got a book and ready to start reading, but I was like, I gotta get some malt. So yeah, I bought one of those cans of malt extract, hopped malt. It's still sitting in my basement.
Actually, I still have one in my basement too. A light malt extract
Oh,
in
do
a
you?
can. Yeah, I remember seeing that the other day.
Oh, we might have to do a combination
Yeah,
here
have to link
to another
and,
brewery or whatever.
see what happens. So that's interesting. So then the Windsor Essex brew scene, you guys are now 3 years. It started with Motor was doing their thing for Motor Burger, quite small, but they were kind of one of the forebearers of what was starting to take place. Then Walkerville just had our 5-year anniversary.
Yep.
Then you guys brew or brew?
Brew,
then-
I think.
Brew opened up,
was
I
up
think,
and
a
going
little
just
bit
before
before
you
us.
guys. So and then just recently now a couple other places have opened up. So we're experiencing a bit of a boom
Yeah,
here in the Windsor Essex area, and you guys are kind of one of the earliest because it was a bit of a lull. There was like Walkerville had opened, and shortly thereafter, Brew than you guys, and there was kind of a lull. A lot of people
Yeah.
were getting ready to open up, but there was a year and a half,
yeah. I
2
think Midian
years.
was supposed to open up right away, and they kind of got delayed.
Yeah.
And
They got
And
delayed.
Jack's or Banded Goose.
Bandit
Bandit
Goose was doing a
Goose.
little bit out there, and then
Sandwich,
Frank would be
too,
the
I
next one.
yeah, Frank.
And then Frank kind of, but there was that little lull there. But now Frank, just had 2 years or coming up on 2 years.
They're coming up. I think coming up in 2 years. They grew very quickly.
They've
which is
grown
good for them.
exceptionally
Yeah.
well, doing moving beer all over the place. Won a couple awards,
Yep.
and then just recently, this past summer, GL Grove,
Lonsbury was what it
Lonsbury's finally got a production work going that you can go to the distillery there in the brew house and actually have the beer.
There's this
and
new one
then-
on Edna that's coming.
There's
up
a new one
very
on
soon.
Edmund that's going to be opening up there. Something called Chapter 2. We'll get into that
I
one a
hear
lot more.
Their brewer is pretty awesome.
Oh, he's an
Would you
all right
like to-
kind of guy.
Yeah, would you like to talk more about him or?
No, we'll talk about him on another episode. We have that roundtable discussion there. But I mean, you guys have been there early on in. You've seen the industry around here growing. Like what I guess kind of corny question here in that sense, but what do you think of the Windsor craft beer scene from where it was, where we're at now? You guys have kind of been there for a couple of years, really, leading the way in one example.
Yeah, there's a lot of camaraderie between the breweries, and rightfully so. It's like everyone's always there to help each other out. I think Jake's Hop Shop on Howard is the hub of everything.
Yep.
So everyone goes there. You talk to Dave, see what's the news on the different breweries. But everyone's like, I'll text message Brad from Frank if we need anything, or you guys at Walkerville, or it's just the camaraderie between everyone. Like just yesterday, Scott from Sandwich Brewing just picked up some rice hulls for his brew day yesterday. Just being able to lend that helping hand, because everyone's obviously in it for not necessarily for themselves, but like they have a business to run. But everyone has that common goal to kind of grow the community as well. Each brewer has their different strengths, and everyone's has something unique about them. For us, we like doing the small batch brews, being very experimental. We love working with the community. Love supporting the community that supports us. And then you have all the other breweries that are doing the same thing as well. But we want to be that brewery downtown, maintain that I wouldn't say foothold downtown, but be that anchor downtown, and hopefully work with a lot of the businesses and restaurants and licensees to help grow downtown, to make it more of a destination. There is, like as everyone knows, there's a lot of problems with downtown, but from where we started to what we see now, there's a lot of hope. With the university coming downtown, they have their open house this Friday. Really hoping to see that kind of start the snowball effect with that downtown CIP that the councillors, or Councillor Reno Borland has worked on with his team, to kind of see that in effect. Seeing all the unoccupied buildings taken down their for lease signs, seeing new business come downtown, see those second and third floor units become residential, to kind of create that vibrancy that we want downtown, to kind of go back in history and kind of bring all that busyness and that liveliness that was downtown, bringing that back in a more responsible way this time. That's what we want to see, and I think there's a lot of people that have that common goal, so it's everyone kind of working together. And I think with the breweries itself is getting all the breweries together to make Windsor, Essex County a brewery destination. And if everyone's making good beer, it'll be a brewery destination.
Yeah, Windsor was kind of off the map in the beer scene, especially when we started. I think that's one of the reasons why we started. We said, why don't we try to open something in Windsor? Because we've been to all these big cities where there's 10 to 20 breweries.
Yeah.
Windsor had, I think, just you and Motorburger at the time.
Yeah.
So we said, it's a perfect opportunity. Let's try to start this in Windsor. And it's amazing how far we've come, and we really are truly transitioning into like a beer destination.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, though. I mean, to have down here, it's true what you said. I remember even going out doing deliveries before, and going to some of the restaurants, and even they would say, we can't get some of the beer down here. Such and such place would only stop at London.
Yeah.
So they would literally have to drive up to London, pick up the kegs there, and bring them back, until Windsor really started developing. And I think we've kind of established that now, that you can. Rest of Ontario, you can send your beer down here as well, and we'll be glad to also send some of our beer back up, because we're doing some great things here. I'm sure you guys have had the opportunity to meet Jordan St. John.
Yeah.
He was just in recently, and he was telling me he was talking with some people in Toronto and telling them, heading down to Windsor. Like, Windsor, what's this like? I love Windsor. People say Windsor's not necessarily a nice place. It's a blue collar town that's really struggling. He was telling me he really likes coming down here, and we're doing some great things beer wise. So he looks forward to coming down for his annual or biannual visits to, again, update his book, see what's going on, and keep up with what's happening around here. So it's nice we're hearing that from somebody up Toronto way, giving a great plug to what's going on down here. So as long as we keep doing and making great beer. So speaking of great beer, I think we should crack number 2. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure.
What are we going with?
I don't know. Now we get into that delicate side. To go with the Brett, that might have a little funk. That might alter our palate.
If only we had a Cicerone at the table.
Where's Mike?
So what do you want? Dark or light?
Let's go with the Brett. Why not? So you got. I didn't see the pin on the sash. That's why I had posted back. I was like,
it's
I was down at the bottom. Because I know last time we had talked to Cast Days, Mike's like, I haven't gotten my pin or my certificate yet.
No,
so...
it's legal, so he has gone through with it, and that pairing that he had last week was it was really good.
Fantastic. I'm hoping to future episode of the We Talk Beer podcast here. There's 3 Cicerones here in the city, so I'm hoping to get Jan and Mike to come on in, and we can sit down and talk about that aspect. I think another a different angle, if you will, of what us beer geeks, what you can do with that. So I was going to do one of those cheesy things. It's actually something you had suggested to me at one point, too. As one of those.
No, I suggest a lot of things.
A lot of things. Kind of that lightning round thing here. I don't know how well this is going to go over or not, but it's one of those, you just got to throw them out, quick one-word answers.
So
if you could only
shooting myself in the foot
somewhat,
right now.
if you could only ever brew with one hop ever again, what would it be?
Galaxy.
Cascade.
Fair enough. Lagers or ales? What do you prefer? Ales?
Oh, it depends what mood I'm in. I'd
but
have
it's
to
true.
say
Okay,
ales. Ales are more.
They tend to be. I mean, lagers are nice, but a little more difficult to.
How about sours?
Sure, I was trying to keep to the base too. Okay, even when I describe to people, when I talk about beer breaks down into really like 3 general categories. There's lagers, ales, and others, which I know it's kind of lumping it all in. But we're drinking an other right here, a little. So this was the Brett.
Yeah.
Brett from Windsor.
Brett from Windsor. What? Tell us a little bit about the Brett from Windsor. What do we got here?
I believe this is the Windsor beer that we
Our Windsor beer pale ale. Yeah.
Yeah, but we fermented it with 100%
Brettanomyces.
Brettanomyces. Yeah. There's a few different strands of Brett. I forget which one this is.
I love the taste of Brett in my mouth. Yeah, you can edit that one.
Nope, we're keeping that one in. I actually did a Belgian beer tasting last week at a friend's house and trying to get that descriptor, and I'm sure it's one you guys have common with.
Horse blanket.
Horse blanket. There was a time we had cracked open a bottle one time. We were trying to, a previous acquaintance of ours poured it in the glass. Everybody just, and no sooner did all the glasses get handed out, and everybody's like, horse blanket. And everybody's like, what the hell?
Have you actually smelled a horse blanket?
I've never actually smelled one, and I don't really know what one truly smells like, but it's that descriptor that once you make the connection to what that smell is, that's the descriptor you will ever have it. It's horse blanket.
Yeah, I have never smelled a horse blanket, but everyone says horse blanket, but I don't
in
know.
the descriptions, like if you go to the White Labs where we got our yeast from, the description for this yeast, it tells you it's like horsey. Like, what the hell is horsey? I don't So
so it's just very earthy, and I don't know, it brings out the inner animal in you, I guess, perhaps.
It's just such a different flavor on your palate that you can't get from anything else, really. Like, is it umami? Is that?
No, it's more the mushroom, that deliciousness. This is more a little more funk than delicious.
So would it be like, so there's the 4 main flavors, right? Or with umami, so like sour, sweet,
salt, sour, bitter, umami, and then they're expanding it out possibly more to include fat.
That's my favorite flavor right there.
That's a great flavor.
So
looking at expanding that a little bit, but for your process, how long do you ferment your Brett beers for? How long do you let them?
These ones we've kind of experimented. I can't.
We'll take samples off and until it gets to the flavor that we want.
But I'm pretty sure no less than 6 weeks. I want to say, where we've aged it sometimes up to 6 months.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah, some like the Flanders we did probably 8 months. The first set we did and that's the thing. Like, if we had more space, we'd be probably aging a lot more beers. It's just we don't have space. If you guys haven't noticed.
It's a little small. The brewery.
It's a little crammed in there. I think we have our kegs, our grain storage now infesting into the tap room.
Everything's moving out.
I think we might change out our seats for kegs, and the tables. Everyone's going to be drinking on grain.
You start making grain sack chairs all over the place. There, you get this. It's a little cushion, a little soft.
Yeah, they're actually really nice to sleep on, lay down on.
Every brewer does. That's where you go. Need a nap? Just a sack of grain and fall asleep.
It's like one of those pillows that are supposed to keep you cool at night. Yeah, but
it's all comfortable.
Okay.
We mentioned earlier about again working community stuff, doing a bunch of community activity and whatnot. As far as I know, a lot of breweries go, you guys are exceptionally active in a lot of different things. You've opened up your space. You have the language
Language
exchange.
We have the comedy nights on Tuesdays. And that's the thing. Like we try to make the space as public as possible. That's part of the reason we have the long communal tables. Is we want people from different walks of life to be able to sit down at the same table. One of the things that I really that one of my favorite memories is like a couple weeks in, maybe about 3 weeks or 3 or 4 weeks into when we opened. We had a couple that just came out of the Capitol Theater. They were probably 80, 85 years old, sitting next to 3 American guys that were about 20 years old at the table. And I'm just like, you don't see this anywhere else. It's like there's only a couple things in life that bring people together, and beer is one of them. And I was just so happy to see that in our tap room. Just an old couple and 3 American dudes just sitting at a table drinking beer. I'm like, this is what I want. Like we don't want any labels when you walk in. Everyone's a person. Everyone has their own taste. Everyone has their own opinion. Just come in, just try things. Just have an open mind, and that kind of goes with the culture that we want to share with everyone. Just have an open mind. If you don't like it, that's fine. We don't want you to like every single beer because we want you to love some beer. So just go out there and try to find it.
That's cool. It's even when I'm at work and you see people come in, I tell everyone else too. I mean, beer's that great icebreaker. I try to get some of my coworkers. I'm like, go engage, go talk. No, it's not our thing. I'm like, you've got the best icebreaker in the world.
Oh, yeah.
They're in your place drinking your beer. What do you think of that beer, guys?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I see you have a flight. From out of town. A lot of time I had one that was like, how'd you know? I was like, I had a camera on the counter on the bar, and there was 2 flights. I'm pretty sure they've never been here before. Turns out they were from Boston. They just got married. We're staying in Windsor for the night, going to catch the Red Sox and Tigers, play a game, and then they were flying off to England the next day for their honeymoon.
Nice.
So a great little thing. Spent about 15 minutes with them, shooting the breeze, and being able to talk over beer, just like we're doing now, right? We're just chatting over beer, having a great time.
Yeah, it's quite fun. Like being at the bar, just hearing people come in, like, oh, we've seen you guys on Untapped, and we wanted to try things out, and just learning their story, learning what their local pub or local brewery does. It's fun learning all the liquor laws and liquor rules in different places. Especially the places in the Bible Belt where they can't get served at certain times or certain days, and restrictions about how much alcohol could be in a beer. It's really interesting to see how Ontario stacks up against everything else.
It's going to take me a minute to find it here. I think it sums it up well. Remember when Tiffany Traveling Pint came through? Yep. It was last summer, was it? Or was it the spring?
Last summer.
Last summer. She made a comment about your play. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find it here because her Instagram has got a lot of pictures. She does great things for beer too. But in saying that, it was that whole aspect basically of, thank you guys for like reminding her how fun and creative craft beer can be.
Well, especially with her, she came into the brewery. We kind of show her around the brewing equipment and kind of our story, but it's kind of the same thing that we're doing right now. Like, I don't necessarily like being interviewed and just have it very one-dimensional. So I was, at the same time, we're just having a conversation of like, what got you into doing what you do, and why do you enjoy craft beer, and what's the funniest story that you have with craft beer? And she had some pretty good stories. So going back and forth, and especially the people that enjoy craft beer, they have such an open mind about certain things, or about life in general. So they have a lot of interesting stories, just the stories that you hear at the bar and just talking to different people. It's just the culture that it creates, that everyone's very open-minded.
That's cool. And then, and even with that, her coming down and again focusing on beer, just bringing people together and doing great things. And I'm going to give a shout out to this right now. Part of the community involvement and things that have gone on was we lost a good friend there back in August. Mr. Jeffrey Craig passed away, and you guys were, from my understanding, and we can correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the really the catalyst behind the working and doing the Fine and Dandy beer. If you guys want to talk about that a little bit,
so
kind of how that started up.
Well, how we got to know Jeff is once again at Jake's Hop Shop. Jeff had worked there, and we'd always go in there for ingredients, and we just talked to Jeff just about beer, kind of what he's brewing, what they're doing over there, and that's kind of how the relationship started. Like we were never really close when we were talking, but just that brewing community that we have, like all the brewers know each other in Windsor. Everyone talks, and we had like I remember going to Anchor Coffee House and I seen Jeff with his fiance Beth, and that's where I learned about Jeff's condition. And my brother went through not necessarily like, well, he went through cancer himself, and it's just one of those things where a lot of the stuff it gets stripped away from you. Like a lot of the goal, not necessarily goals, but your passion gets like stripped away from you. So like Jeff's passion was beer. He was unable to keep up with the hours or keep up with the wear and tear of what it is to work in a brewery. So
Did you come in a few times there when he was after he'd been diagnosed? He was trying to continue on working with us, but yeah, some days you could just see the fatigue was in. He's like, guys, I can't. We're like, no, we understand, man. Go home.
And like as a person in that condition or that like in his situation, he could be the most selfish person and complain about everything, but you've never heard a peep or a complaint out of him. So like he inspired, like he inspires me all the time that just don't complain about anything. Like there's so many bad things that could happen, and he never complained about anything. So he always wanted the best for everyone. So like when I did see him at Anchor Coffee House, it was one of those things where it's like, you know what, our brewery is open to you whenever you want to come in. If you just want to brew by yourself, I'll give you the keys. You know how to brew. Just brew whatever you want to brew. Just let me know. We'll have everything set up for you, and just go ahead and do it. And a couple months passed by, and he's just like, he messaged me on Facebook, and he's just like, you know what, I don't want to take you up on that offer. I'm like, hey, let's do something. And he had the idea of doing a charity beer, and Steve and I are both adamant about being able to help out the community that helps support us. So we decided on doing something with the Canadian Cancer Society. Then Jeff pretty much made the recipe. We did a few test batches or of incorporating the dandelion into the beer. And then we had a couple of great events. I remember Jeff being as giddy as he is. He never liked being in front of the camera or talking out in public.
No, definitely not.
But having something like this made him want to be in front of the camera because it was for such a good cause, that he got used to being in front of the camera and talking to people. And it was just funny talking to his family and friends how much he hated being in front of the media, but he loved being in front of the media to support this. And that kind of brought a smile to my face to get him out of his shell a little bit. And he did everything that he needed to do to get that going.
And that's an awesome tie-in, right? Because just knew you, didn't worked elsewhere, worked at Walkerville, and then it turned into one of the biggest collaborations so far through the city between Walkerville and you guys getting this going, and doing the charity work for that. So, I mean that's what breweries do. That's what beer people do, right? We all stick together and do things. So I just wanted to. Again, thank you guys out now for doing. That's a great thing that that was done.
It's nothing that we did ourselves. It's just something that, like, I think that it should happen. We're going to be doing the Downtown Flight Club December 23rd. If no one knows what that is, it's a downtown pub crawl with the 5 bars, us, Fog, Villains, Snack Barbecue, and Windsor Beer Exchange. We're going to do a special batch of the Fine and Dandy. I talked to Beth, and she's going to get a few of Jeff's friends. We're going to brew a special batch of it, and that's going to be one of the beers for Flight Club.
Awesome.
And we're going to do the donation again to Canadian Cancer Society. One of the last few things that I was talking to Jeff with is supporting the program Wheels of Hope. So that was in Canadian Cancer Society of getting patients and their families to and from chemo or doctor's appointments that aren't able to drive themselves. So that's one of the things that we're going to do for that flight club. And then all the donations go to the Canadian Cancer Society. So
since we have a beer here and here, we're going to cheers to Jeffrey.
Cheers, Jeff.
Rest in peace, my friend. Fantastic. So actually, we're just going to be close to winding up here. Last few things, I just want to kind of bring it back to even the Windsor scene again, because now that it is, again, it's booming. We got Sandwich just open, or 2 weeks old.
Yeah.
No, finally, 2 weeks after like 3 years.
They-
Good
they-
on them, the perseverance, man.
I really
that,
think-
that place went through so many.
I really
dances
think they've
and
been open
changes
for
and-
3 years, and they were just drinking themselves.
That's possible. I have to ask Scotty and Jay when they come in here, find out about that one. But the Windsor, I mean, do you think is there anything that we need down here? Is there anything, maybe a direction you'd might like to see us heading off to, or some things? What do you think we need to do down here?
That's a good question.
I think there could be some more collaborations between breweries. When you go up to Toronto, you see a lot of the breweries working together, having guest taps or collaborations. And I know that we like working with other breweries because it's a learning experience on both ends. Learning experience, and then just sharing that camaraderie and having that camaraderie with the different breweries. And there's always something to learn, but at the same time, it's the funnest industry to be in. Everyone's happy to be in it. No one really has any ill will to any of the other breweries. So it's one of those things that should be celebrated. So like having collaborations or doing events or pretty much growing the craft beer industry in Windsor is what I think that should happen. With a couple of the smaller breweries coming up on board, with the smaller systems, they'll have that flexibility to do so. And that's something I really look forward to doing, and kind of showcasing the different uniqueness of each and every brewery.
So that's a very good answer, very politically correct. I'll speak my mind a little bit more openly.
Do it. It's
I
all
think
good.
more licensees in this city need to support the local craft industry. I feel like there's too many bars. There's still quite a lot of bars that do only support craft, but there's still a lot of other bars that you go in and they only have the big guys on tap. Like they don't have any craft. I'd like to see that change. I'd like to see everybody, all licensees in the city, kind of even to support a couple craft beers on tap. I'm trying to move the whole industry towards that.
Yeah.
I mean, without making this too politically charged or any of that type of, and that we're necessarily shying away from that, but we don't want to ruffle too many feathers. We all know the reasons why, so some of the big boys are on at those places. So that's something that maybe.
For a
People
future
need to
podcast.
Episode, yeah.
Yes, for a future podcast, because I think that's something where there's a situation where sometimes, and I get it, it's business, but sometimes people need to look back in the mirror, and it's one of those. Well, if you want the support, you got to get it. Goes around, comes around.
Yeah.
So, let's make sure we're all supporting each other and really doing what's truly a benefit to everybody, not just always looking out for number one. I can definitely see where. Definitely see where a little more of that can come through, but that might be the big open discussion podcast.
Oh, that's when you have all the breweries sitting around a round table and discussing that. That should be a really interesting discussion.
That one's going to be a fun one. We might have to get a bigger room when we have that one here. We have to take that. We have to take that one on the road. We have to take that one out of here. We're gonna crack open this last one here and get into a little bit of wind up mode here. But favorite styles, everything kind of ebbs and flows. I know you get everyone hates that question. What's your favorite beer? Well, when you're in our business, there's handfuls of beers. It'll ebb and flow. I know even when I'm at Walkerville, I go through ebbs and flows with the lager. I love it, and then after a while, I'm like, God, I don't want to drink this anymore for a while. And then after a while, you get back and it's such a good beer, and then you start drinking it again. Are there certain flavors styles that you guys tend to really gravitate towards, or if you're out and about, you're like, you know what?
It definitely ebbs and flows, and I think when we first started getting into it, I think it was IPAs, the super hoppy IPAs that we.
I remember it was
got us
Flying
into it.
Monkeys.
Thank you.
We were like, oh, let's try all these hops.
I remember going to Toronto beer fests, and it was Flying Monkeys. Their Smash Bomb Atomic IPA.
Was it the first generation one?
I don't know. This was probably
because
apparently
the first generation was
apparently
great.
Alexander Keith's is not an IPA. So when you've actually had an IPA,
that was a big shock. Too.
Well,
wow, that's really.
It's more of an old English interpretation of the IPA, not the newer ones that we're used to. drink with the American influence. We're just more hops.
Yeah, just
How many
hop
hops
juice.
can you get in this thing?
Right now, I'm in like a stout kick. I don't know if it's the cold weather, but I love dark, rich beers, and that's kind of what
It's-
You
this
couldn't have
goes seasonal.
segued that any better, Steve. I'm into the stouts here, like the impeachment Russian Imperial stout that is currently sitting in front of us
I wonder what
at
that,
11.1%.
I wonder where that name came from. I don't know that
Impeachment. Oh,
Russian Imperial Stout.
Impeachment.
it's the
I don't know. This could be the
Best
trump
beer
card
ever.
here.
Let's not get
alternative
political.
fact.
Yes, it's fake beer.
Big beer.
We're not actually drinking the impeachment Imperial stout at the moment. Do you have any? Okay, so then you have any least favorite styles? Is there something that you just like? You know what? I get it. It serves a purpose, but it's just not
Every
really
beer has-
something I drink.
Every beer has its like shining moment.
Yeah, I don't really like blondes that much, but when a blonde is done really well and it's got a little bit of a malty tone to it, I really enjoy it. But it's never my first choice.
Yeah, there's like I always go flights. I can't do a pint of something. IPAs, sours, stouts.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Anything
think. I don't think there's
barrel-aged.
anything I don't like. I went through a phase where like I didn't like sours. I couldn't get into it.
No,
All I
we-
tasted was sour.
Yeah.
It's an acquired taste, obviously, but now I love them. Like now I can't get enough of them. That's
Yeah,
all.
It took
Just
me
the
a year and a
complexity.
half to
Yeah.
used to
It's-
even
yeah, it's the
pale ales. I
complexity
had
and-
Sierra Nevada's pale ale the first time. I was like, how the hell do people drink this stuff?
Yeah.
But then after a while, you're like, well, whatever. You're drinking
minute.
hop stupid.
Let
You're
me go back
drinking.
here. A beer that I just can't stand is I think the big guys like those commercial beers. I've tried them again, like Molson Canadian and
Yeah.
Labatt Blue. I can't even make a beer that tastes like that. I don't know what they do, but it doesn't taste like malt.
They
It
have
doesn't
their
taste
place.
like beer.
They have their place, like playing flip cup and beer pong. And
Yeah, but-
getting
You know,
spilled
you-
onto the floor.
You're
or
building
I'd
you're
rather
building a
just have
deck or a
Pilsner or
fence in your
something.
backyard. You need that something you're just going to throw down.
lawnmower. Better go for a session IPA as a
Yeah.
lawnmower beer.
Well, I'm in the works with it, trying to get a few more people involved, and hopefully bring the results back to a future episode here. Though we're gonna get a bunch of people together. I was inspired because someone else had done it, but we're gonna get a bunch of the macro beers, Canadian Bud, all those, and we're gonna do. I don't know if you want to
A
call it
blind
the.
taste test?
Well, I don't know if we're gonna call it the best of the worst or the
Oh,
worst of the best or
I did
something
that
like that.
at,
But we're gonna do a whole bunch of them out, and I got some of my other coworkers. And I want to get a few other people to come out, and we're gonna just see. Hey, which is the best out of this macro stuff?
So
Which
I've
is really
got-
the most
let me jump in
enjoyable?
with my story quickly. My
So,
brother-in-law,
go ahead.
Larry D. He was a Bud Light guy his whole life, and I've kind of converted him to craft now. He likes some craft beers, not all of them, but some of them. And he at one of our Christmas gatherings, he guaranteed that he could pick Bud Light out of a lineup, and we didn't believe him. So we tried it. We got like Bud Light, Coors Light. I think we had Blue Light. We had I think there was 5 different beers, and out of like, I think there was a few different rounds, and he nailed it every time, which was floored me. I couldn't, because I did the same test. There was a few of us, my brother, my dad, and Larry, and he got it every time. He got all the other ones wrong, but he could always pick out Bud Light, which just
Jeez.
floored me. I was like, "Are you
That's-
kidding?" Like,
Yeah, we did that. We had a bachelor party come in, and we wanted to have a competition between the groom, the best man, which was his son, and the groom's brother. And we rigged the game so the groom would lose. But they got so we had a blind taste test of like Bud Light, Coors Light, Labatt, like 5 commercial lagers, and they got 1 out of 15 right. And
it's funny,
and
even
that-
though the guys that tell you, like, "Oh yeah, all I drink is Bud Light or something,"
don't
you
know.
got it wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
so like end story was the groom had to do a body shot off his son, which I thought was hilarious. So
Interesting. This Imperial Stout says 11.1%. It doesn't drink like 11.1%. This will sneak up on you
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
knock you out. Or let it warm up a little bit. Let it warm up a little bit. The aromatics come out, and let the warming, lingering alcohol characters and the fruity notes and the esters come forward. And
this beer is the head retention is unbelievable. I had one the other night and I didn't finish it. And I came back a couple hours and there's still like head on it. Like, what the hell?
it's
I don't know.
fantastic. Well done. What do you think of the? We'll kind of start drifting off here. 'Cause we're just talking, making a light joke about tasting and whatnot. But what do you think about your feelings on some of those people when they get into it? And they're like, are you getting hints of this and essence of that? And is it?
I think it's all-
It
it's-
kind of serves a point and a
everybody
place
has
too.
a-
You need to kind of go with that too. But I think some people get a little
I think they go a
too
little
far.
Yeah.
because everybody has their own palate and everybody could probably decipher their own tastes from the beer. But yeah, I think people go a little overboard sometimes with that. And they'll say these random ingredients that no, that's not in there, but you can taste it. But
Yeah, I think the education is important. So like if there's certain tastes that people like that's common in a certain beer, like you kind of let them know what it's gonna taste like. Because everyone thinks like a stout's gonna be Guinness or I'm trying to think of like an IPA is gonna be like really hoppy and bitter that you can't drink it. But it's just that clearing that perception of people. That certain like not all stouts are gonna be like heavy and dark and then like what you would think. So it's just trying to break that barrier that not all dark beer is Guinness, not all IPAs are
hoppy.
just like hoppy and bitter. Like just try it and kind of see. Like on the board that we have the IBU rating or IBU number on the beer. Obviously, it's kind of perceived bitterness is a different thing, but it gives you kind of a scale to go by. So if people don't like bitter beers, they can kind of see like, oh, maybe I should stick to something around less than 20, or it just gives them some guidelines to kind of try to to not shock them as much.
What's weird because this beer that we're drinking here, the stout, Imperial Stout, the IBUs are 73, and that typically would be like, oh my god, that's a really bitter beer.
Yeah.
But you don't taste the bitterness.
Yeah,
No.
the
Because it's
perceived
balanced
bitterness
with other.
And that's one of those great terms that came out when doing the studying and whatnot. And I'm sure Mike gets behind it too. That perceived bitterness, and I think that education side, I think, really needs to. I mean, and across the board too. I like to almost see, not quite this way, but a little more common lingo that a lot of the places are using. Let's use a lot of the same words, a lot of the same terms, because the more we can educate people, then it allows us to know. Now we can start really pushing or getting people to understand our products a little bit better. Now that they have the proper terminology in place. My father-in-law was notorious for that. I don't like those. I don't like hoppy beers, too bitter. I don't like bitter beers. They're too hoppy. I was like, well, they're not mutually inclusive. You can have a beer that has hop character and it's not very bitter, and vice versa. So.
Yeah, I think the education is really important. Like having you as a Cicerone being able to teach people and having the brewery staff educated to teach customers coming in. I think that's probably the most important thing to help grow the industry. Because then you can explain a lot of the different aspects of what craft beer is. Like a lot of people that aren't knowledgeable about craft beer just think it's a magic potion that it's either going to be too hoppy. Like, oh, I don't like craft beer because it's going to be too hoppy. That's a very very general statement to make about something. So like
it's the
having
American's
that staff,
fault.
yeah, and having that the staff to be able to kind of share that message and educate people, like whether it's like the glass or cleaning the glass etiquette or
the
rinsing
type
the
of glass.
glass, the type of glass, the different styles, and knowing what each style should be. I think that's important. I know one of the things that we want to follow is the Jack's Gastropub out in Kingsville. Their whole staff has their beer
Certified.
well, not
Certified
beer
beer
Certified beer server, the first
certified
level.
beer server. That's something that we want to institute at our bar or at the brewery.
Can you teach a class like that, or do you have to be like a? How do you
No,
become a teacher of that class?
You just get the information together, really.
Because I feel like we need something like that. Like somebody in Windsor where like bar owners can send their staff, like go see Mike for this class. It's a couple hours.
All right, shameless plug. I have most of I have most of a booklet put together. I was approached by one place to start working with their staff as well. So I do have it took a while to. I was like, a couple of weeks. I'll have this ready to go. Almost done. Email almost done. Email almost done. It's currently like 77 PowerPoint slides in length, but it's
especially
all
like bars that are serious about promoting craft. I think the staff needs to be on the same page.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like Milos, one of our favorite, our favorite place in London.
Great place, love Milos.
Oh, yeah. Food is awesome.
Food's awesome. Beer selection is fantastic.
It's just overall great place.
Yeah, so like all their servers are certified beer servers. So like that's kind of like if people are serious about craft beer, they'll have their servers as certified beer servers. They will clean their lines regularly. Their staff will be educated on knowing what's what and help share the knowledge of what craft beer is to the customers, because that's the best way to build the craft beer industry is education and sharing it with with everyone. Making sure you have a good product is also up there, but the education so people know what's being drank.
I put that in one of the phrases I wrote down in that booklet I'm putting together was, the script only sells so much.
Yeah.
When people come in, if they're just literally reading off the tasting notes that you guys put together, and it's like, well, if a customer comes in and says, "Hey, I want to know about this beer. What can you tell me about it?" "Oh, well, it's this and this." It's like, yeah, that's what it says on the menu here. Can you go a little bit more forward and describe it? What are the characteristics of the hops? Does it come across a little more this or that?
Yeah.
And really take that time to without at the same time sounding
Snobby.
snobby.
Yeah,
You
there's a
get that
fine line there.
the beer snob thing. The big one right now, especially I'm finding with like pilsners and some of the more delicate beers, as they like to be called. What you're saying, my palate's not refined enough. Well, to a certain extent, yes and no, but take it for what it is. It's not something that's going to come up and slap you in the face with a
Yeah.
whole lot of
Right.
flavor, but there is a lot of flavor and characteristics there. Yes, you just have to kind of look for it a little bit
Right.
more. So, I'd like to see it that way. And just like I said, if we can try to get a group or citywide or even across everywhere, but a little more consistency in the verbiage and words we're using to describe
Right.
things.
Yeah, if only you had a Cicerone that would be able to set something up.
Well, you're friends with two of them, so I mean, so it's either they don't want to work. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe it's you. No, you know what? I think that really just kind of covers everything we're looking to discuss about tonight. It's just trying to get to the Windsor Essex beer scene moving and really trying to hopefully open people's eyes to it. And that beer isn't necessarily a scary thing. It's not just for hipsters. It's not just for new people. It's something that's very approachable
Yeah.
and
Well,
out
yeah,
there,
you see
and being willing to try things. Like
Yeah, that's
the
a big
preconceived notions of what beer was. I
Yeah.
remember when I first started at Walkerville 5 years ago, and went out and gave people the honest lager, and it's got that kind of amberish color to it, and it's like, that's not beer, that's dark. Why'd you give me an ale? It's not an ale, it's a lager, sir. Oh, it's dark, sir. I make the beer. I know what I'm giving you. This is our honest lager.
Stop being a snob.
But those preconceived notions of what
Yeah.
beer was and what it can be, and when you give people a sour beer, this can't be beer. Well, go tell it to the Belgians.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they'll correct you really fast on what can and can't be done too. So it's I think that's just what we really need to get pushing here in the city or in the Windsor Essex area is that education. And as long as you guys keep continuing making these excellent product you guys are making, especially from a creative standpoint, and showing people what can come out with just a little bit of an open mind, a little bit of excitement for experimentation.
Exactly.
Yeah, our staff is doing a great job. Our brewers, Chad, Jesse, and Will, are holding down the fort in the brewery. And our staff is being able to kind of educate the people. Obviously, we wanted to try to get them up to the beer server certified, but just being able to share that knowledge with everyone. I think that's one of the things that we're going to be working on next year is trying to get more education out there, especially with our licensees, and I think it'll help the craft beer industry in general.
I just had some good conversations with Chad talking on the creative side of things. So what do you got going on? Oh yeah, I did this, and I fermented it with that. I was like, you did? Yeah, I just wanted to see what would happen.
Yeah.
Brian gave me the okay, so I did 100% this. And
Pretty much the okay is Chad's like, oh, like I want to try this dark beer and just put 100% Brett in it. I'm like, all right, we'll see what happens. We'll learn from it.
Yeah.
And see what happens. So that was the I think the Brett Michael sucks was that one.
Yeah.
The Brett was like you couldn't taste the Brett at all.
I got lost.
They got lost in the malt. So we learned. That's something that we learned with it. So we'll take a look at the grain bill, either scale some stuff back or age it longer, but it's something that we learn. So as long as we keep on learning and kind of working from there, we keep on setting a nice foundation, kind of building upon that.
All right, and I guess in closing here, I just walked into Craftheads right now, and I see you each gonna have your turns. So I see Steve first. Hey, Steve, what's going on, man? See this this list of 30 beers, and your flights are done in 4. Pick 4 that are on tap right now. If you can recall
you
4
or
of them,
for, like,
for
just a
anybody,
random
just
person?
somebody that just came in and they said, "Hey, what are the 4 beers on this menu right now that I should have?"
Ooh, that's tough from the 30. I'd have to first see if they're if they're really into craft beer. If they weren't, I'd probably start with like the blonde, the blueberry blonde, definitely the turbulent chocolate peanut butter porter, then maybe an IPA, maybe our Feather Hat Guy IPA. Those are our staples. But if they were really into craft, it'd be probably just pick some of the crazy one-offs that we've done.
Oh yeah, I'm all about setting the impression. So it's just like 4, just like knock your socks off. So it'd be chocolate peanut butter. I really like the feather hat though. Like,
Yeah, the
but
Feather Hat.
it's not like knock your socks off, but it's just like I find that
That one's
one
been
of my
around since the beginning, hasn't it? That
Oh,
was,
there's a
one, that, was
first
one of,
start.
that was one of your first.
That was our house. That was our house
House
IPA,
IPA, yeah.
and that's gone through probably about 15 revisions.
Yeah, the hops have always remained the same, but
Just the
we've tried
brewing.
different brewing methods and quantities and timing, and it's 100% Centennial, very citrusy IPA.
Yeah, and that was I think we've gone through 15 different variations of that beer, but we're really happy with it now. So I'd go chocolate peanut butter, Feather Hat, Imperial coffee stout.
Oh yeah, that's another one. I think that
Um,
one is really nice.
Trying to think of what would just be really different.
The amber, I think, is really
Oh, it's just a
very
great name
different.
too.
That one is a good one because it's got that great like toffee,
Toffee.
without it
toffee,
really being
toffee.
like any type of like a fake toffee, like you see like a sponge toffee beer. Hey, we did a Christmas bread pudding toffee pudding beer. No, it has that very much that characteristic without being. Yeah, it's like I'm drinking dessert here, but it's fantastic.
Or even the salted caramel. We're always surprised how many people love that beer. I can't drink a lot of it, but I think it's spot on with the flavors. Like,
I want to do maybe like that Sour Batch Kid. I really like.
oh yeah, the Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah. So that's another beer that we're doing for Flight Club as well.
What about the unicorn tears or something?
unicorn milkshake? Was it unicorn?
Yeah, we're gonna be
cream?
remaking our milkshake IPA.
Yeah. So there's a couple different things that we're gonna be doing. The kettle sour, the Sour Batch Kids, we're gonna be doing that kettle sour again because that was fun. Because then we can age it on different fruits and see what happens. Like lychee, maybe
Like
we should do
lychee.
that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think we're
Well, for those people listening to this, they got some great things coming out here. I mean, these two are sitting here debating. We're going to do this, right? When we're supposed to be doing this, we're doing that. So that just tells me there's going to be a lot more great things coming out of the Craftheads Brewery in the near future. So definitely, if you get that opportunity, head on back down to the address again.
89 University Avenue West. You can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/craftheadsbrew, or find us on Instagram at craftheadsbrew, or on Twitter at craftheadsbrew, which we don't really post on Twitter. I think our last post was probably about 1.5 years ago. But
It's kind of nice part about some of those social media platforms where you can like apply them to the other ones, like Instagram,
Yeah, you can
especially,
post
right?
one and it
I can
spreads it.
share these on a couple of them. I don't have
but
to actually go to that.
different platforms have different things,
True.
right? So
True.
like
Well, the
Twitter's
other-
more news.
The other thing we should mention is our website. It has our tap list live
Oh, yeah.
update now. So if you're ever interested on what's on tap,
Yeah.
I just go to www.craftheads.ca.
Yeah, instead of calling me at 1:30 in the morning and asking what's on tap, you can just log into our website at craftheads.ca. There's a white banner at the top that says click for live tap list. That will save you a phone call.
And that was at craftheads.ca, correct?
Yes, that's at craftheads.ca.
craftheads.ca.
Because I'll get probably about 15 phone calls a week about what's on tap or what we have as bottle availability, and it's all
It's
online.
all on there.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you very much for coming out tonight, being the first official podcast of the We Talk Beer
It's been a pleasure.
podcast.
Yeah, thank you
I
for having
appreciate
us.
you guys
Like,
coming out.
We'll be here anytime you ask. So
Fantastic.